The battle rages in space as alien warships loom above Earth, their weapons primed to obliterate the planet. Amid the chaos, a lone alien soldier, Zorath, stands on a high-tech observation platform, watching Earth's military struggle from a distance. His eyes scan the battlefield, and his mind, trained for countless wars, attempts to process the sight before him. Yet nothing could have prepared him for this moment. He has seen civilizations rise and fall, but nothing like this. Zorath's fingers hover over the controls of his surveillance equipment, his sharp alien eyes locked on a group of human soldiers. He zooms in closer on them, each of them looking like mere ants when compared to the heavily armed and advanced alien forces. What strikes Zorath the most isn't their weakness, but their courage. These soldiers are outnumbered and under-equipped, yet they stand their ground without a hint of fear. The humans fight back with a determination that is almost unnatural. They are pushed to their limits, their armor torn and bloodied, yet they continue to fight. Zorath is taken aback by their resilience. The soldiers wear no armor that could stand against the aliens' superior weapons. Yet in their eyes, Zorath can see the fire of determination burning brighter than any of his own race. They don't just fight for survival. They fight for something far greater, something that Zorath can't quite understand. Zorath leans forward, his heart racing as he continues to observe. Among the soldiers, one stands out, Captain James Bonner. He's the leader of this small group, and his unwavering resolve is evident in every move he makes. Despite the overwhelming odds, Bonner pushes his team forward, never once hesitating. Zorath watches in awe as Bonner's squad continues to press forward, despite taking heavy casualties. Each soldier's life is a gamble, and each death weighs heavily on Zorath's mind. The camera zooms in on Bonner's face. His brow is furrowed, his lips tight with concentration. His bloodied face is streaked with dirt, but his eyes shine with an unyielding focus. He speaks to his squad, not with fear, but with the kind of intensity that only someone who has seen the horrors of war can possess. "We fight for Earth," Bonner says, his voice low but filled with authority. "We fight because this planet is worth saving. And no matter what, we protect it, no matter the cost." Zorath feels a chill run down his spine as he hears those words. For the first time in his life, he questions everything. Why do the humans fight so fiercely? They have no chance against the advanced weaponry of the alien forces. They have no hope of winning, yet they fight like their lives depend on it. And they do. But there's something deeper here, something beyond mere survival. Zorath's gaze shifts as the first human soldier falls. The young man, no more than 20 years old, is struck by a blast from an alien gun. His body jerks, and he collapses to the ground, motionless. Zorath's breath catches in his throat as he watches the young soldier's comrades rally around his body. There's no time to mourn, no time to grieve. The squad doesn't hesitate. They fight on. But Zorath sees the pain in their eyes, the anger, and the sorrow. It's a pain that his own race has never known. To them, death is just a part of war, a necessary sacrifice. But to the humans, it is a personal loss, a wound that never heals. As the battle intensifies, Zorath feels a wave of emotions he never thought possible. Regret, awe, confusion. He's been trained to believe that emotions are a weakness, that soldiers like Bonner are nothing more than expendable pawns. But watching Bonner, watching these humans fight for each other with such fervor, Zorath can no longer maintain the cold detachment that has defined his entire life. Zorath is a soldier of the alien empire. He has been trained to see Earth and its inhabitants as inferior, weak. But now, for the first time, he is questioning everything. Why are these humans so willing to die for their planet? What is it about them that drives them to stand up against impossible odds? As he watches the bloodshed unfold, Zorath's mind races. He has seen countless wars, countless deaths. But this is different. His thoughts are interrupted by a sudden burst of gunfire, and Zorath's gaze snaps back to the battlefield. Captain Bonner is leading another charge, his rifle raised high. He takes down 2 alien soldiers with precision, his aim flawless. Zorath can hardly believe what he is seeing. Despite being vastly outnumbered, the humans are holding their ground. And for the first time in his life, Zorath feels a strange sense of admiration for them. As Zorath watches, his mind races. Could it be that the humans are stronger than his empire thought? Could their strength come from something more than technology or weapons? Zorath finds himself thinking about his own race and the cold, emotionless society he comes from. His people are efficient, yes, but they are devoid of the passion, the fire that he sees in the humans. What makes them so different? Zorath asks himself. And what if they aren't the weak creatures his empire believes them to be? What if the humans are stronger than any of them could ever imagine? The questions swirl in his mind, but there is no time for answers. The battle continues, and Zorath knows he must complete his mission. But deep down, something has shifted. His loyalty to his alien empire is beginning to falter. His mind is no longer as clear as it once was. As the dust settles and the battlefield quiets for a moment, Zorath feels an unfamiliar sensation stirring within him. It's a feeling that he has never known before. Doubt. Doubt about his mission. Doubt about his people. And most of all, doubt about the humans he has been taught to view as nothing more than inferior beings. In that moment, Zorath knows that his life will never be the same. His mission on Earth is no longer just about defeating the humans. It is about something much more personal. Something that will force him to make a decision that will change everything. And as he watches Captain Bonner rally his troops for another charge, Zorath makes a decision in his heart. The humans may be outnumbered, but they are not as weak as they seem. They have something that his empire can never have: the will to fight, to survive, and to protect what they love. And Zorath wonders, for the first time, whether his people are truly the superior race. As the battle rages on, Zorath's internal conflict deepens. He watches as Captain Bonner and his squad charge into the fray once more. The sound of gunfire and explosions fills the air. But Zorath no longer hears the noise of war. Instead, all he hears is the quiet question in his mind: what if these humans are worth saving? Zorath sat motionless in his command chair, the soft hum of his ship's engine filling the otherwise silent cockpit. The battle had shifted. The humans were not the simpletons his empire had once believed them to be. He had watched them fight, bleed, and die with a fierce determination that had shaken him to his core. Their courage, their loyalty to one another, these were things that his people had long since discarded in the pursuit of cold efficiency. And yet, here they were, these humans, willing to sacrifice everything for a planet that had no hope against the superior might of his empire. Zorath's eyes flicked to the holographic projection of his orders. The alien commanders had made it clear: the humans must be eliminated and their resistance crushed. The directive was simple: kill, destroy, obliterate. Yet, as the words echoed in his mind, Zorath's stomach tightened with unease. He had been trained to follow orders without question. His entire life had been dedicated to the alien empire's vision of conquest, a vision built on the notion of their superiority. He had fought in countless wars, and in every battle, his emotions were kept at bay. Emotions were weakness, and weakness was anathema to survival. But now, as he watched the human soldiers on the battlefield, something inside him began to crack. Why were they fighting so hard? Why were they willing to die for each other? Zorath recalled his upbringing, a life of cold precision, where every action was calculated and every feeling suppressed. His people, the Syrians, were a species that valued logic above all else. They saw no need for camaraderie or friendship, for love or compassion. Theirs was a life of survival and order. Anything else was a distraction, a liability. But these humans, Zorath could no longer dismiss them as weak. They fought with a ferocity and a unity that transcended the battlefield. The human soldiers, despite being outnumbered and outgunned, stood firm. They bled together, died together, and yet their will never faltered. Zorath had seen soldiers die in his own ranks, but there was no grief, no sorrow. They were simply replaced. But the humans, he saw their pain. He felt their loss, and something deep within him stirred, something he had never felt before. Doubt. His mind raced. Could it be that the humans had something his people lacked? Could their strength come from something more than just weapons? Was there a deeper force at work here, something that Zorath's superior technology couldn't measure? He couldn't explain it, but the emotions that coursed through him were undeniable. Zorath leaned forward, gripping the edge of his command chair. His gaze turned to the holographic map of Earth. The human military was holding its ground, pushing back against the alien invaders. Despite the overwhelming odds, they refused to surrender. And in the center of it all, Captain James Bonner stood at the front, leading his men with unwavering resolve. Zorath's eyes lingered on Bonner's face, his expression grim but resolute. There was a fire in Bonner's eyes that Zorath couldn't ignore, a fire that burned not for victory, but for something much greater. Suddenly, the loud chime of an incoming message broke Zorath's train of thought. It was his commander, the one who had given the orders to eliminate the human resistance. Zorath, the voice crackled over the comms. We've identified a human base that must be destroyed immediately. This will weaken their defense and pave the way for our victory. You are to lead the strike team. Eliminate everything. No survivors. The command was clear. There was no room for hesitation. Zorath's heart pounded in his chest as he stared at the orders on his screen. He had never questioned orders before. But now, faced with the task of destroying the humans who had shown him a strength he had never understood, he felt torn. He had always believed that the Syrians were the superior race, that their technological advancements and military prowess made them invincible. But now, as he stood on the precipice of this mission, he wasn't so sure. Zorath's hand hovered over the controls, unsure. His eye-controlled weaponry, his cloaking device, and his superior tech would easily destroy the human base. It was a mission he had completed countless times before, and yet, as he thought about the lives that would be lost, as he thought about the faces of the human soldiers he had watched on the battlefield, something in his chest tightened. He glanced out at the starry expanse of space through his ship's transparent window. His mind flashed back to the humans, the wounded soldiers struggling to hold on, the fallen comrades, their bodies scattered across the battlefield. But it wasn't just their physical strength that impressed him. It was their emotional connection to each other, their unyielding loyalty to their comrades. Zorath had never experienced that. He had never known what it was like to have someone fight for him. His people didn't need that kind of bond. They fought for survival, for efficiency, for conquest. The idea of sacrificing oneself for another was alien to Zorath. It was something his people had long since evolved out of. But the humans, they fought for each other, for a cause greater than themselves. They fought for Earth, for their families, for their homes. Zorath's mind raced. Could he destroy them? Could he erase these people who had awakened something in him? His loyalty to his commanders was strong, but his heart was not as certain. The mission was clear. He was an elite soldier, trained to carry out his orders without question. But the humans were no longer just enemies. They had become something more, something that forced Zorath to question everything. As the ship's AI flashed a reminder of the mission's importance, Zorath realized he had been sitting there for far too long. The mission was time-sensitive, and every second wasted was a risk. He glanced once more at the humans, still fighting for their lives below. And then, with a heavy heart, he turned away. He couldn't do it. He couldn't destroy them. Not yet. Zorath knew the consequences of defying his commanders, but for the first time in his life, he wasn't sure if he could live with himself if he followed through. He had been trained to be a weapon, but he now found himself questioning the very nature of war. The message from his commander crackled once more through the comms. Zorath, are you in position? Your delay is unacceptable. Zorath's fingers hovered over the controls once more, but this time, they didn't move. He was at a crossroads. The battle for Earth raged on below, and the alien empire was depending on him. But in that moment, Zorath couldn't bring himself to obey. The humans had shown him something that made him question the entire purpose of his mission. He had a decision to make, and for the first time in his life, Zorath didn't know what the right choice was. Zorath's mind was a whirlwind of confusion, fear, and determination. His decision had been made. He could no longer be part of an empire that sought to erase everything in its path. His people, the Xerians, had long believed in their superiority, their cold, calculated approach to life, but Zorath could no longer ignore what he had witnessed on Earth. The humans, fragile, emotional beings, had something his own species had lost long ago, a sense of unity, of purpose. He had seen the soldiers fight not for power or glory, but for each other, for a cause greater than themselves. It was something Zorath couldn't ignore. He stood in the dimly lit cockpit of his ship, the hum of the engines a constant reminder of the life he was about to leave behind. The message from his commanders still echoed in his ears. They wanted him to destroy the humans, to eliminate all resistance. But the more he thought about it, the more the weight of his decision pressed down on him. Zorath glanced at the holographic map of the battlefield. The humans were holding their ground. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, they refused to surrender. But he had already made up his mind. He was leaving, and he was going to help them. The cockpit door slid open with a soft hiss, and Zorath stepped out into the cold metallic corridors of his ship. His heart pounded in his chest, and his every step felt heavy. He knew what was coming next. His commanders would never allow him to leave without a fight. They would send their best soldiers after him, and they would stop at nothing to bring him back. Zorath's hand moved instinctively to the weapons belt at his side. His advanced weapons hummed softly, ready for use. He didn't want to fight his people, but he knew he had no choice. This was the only way he could escape. This was the only way he could free himself from the chains of his past. As he made his way to the hangar bay, the ship's AI activated, its robotic voice filling the air. Warning: unauthorized departure detected. You have 5 minutes to comply with orders or face immediate consequences. Zorath didn't respond. He had already made up his mind. His fingers brushed the controls, and the hangar doors opened with a soft hiss. His personal ship, a sleek and powerful craft, stood ready. The engines roared to life as he climbed inside. He glanced one last time at the ship's interior, the place he had spent so many years in service to his empire. But now it felt like a cage. The moment the doors closed, Zorath initiated the launch sequence. His ship shot into space, its speed almost instantaneous. But as soon as he left the safety of the ship, the alarms blared. His ship was being tracked. You cannot escape. Zorath, the voice of his commander, crackled through the communication system. Turn back now and face the consequences. Zorath didn't respond. Instead, he engaged the cloaking device, and for a moment, he felt the ship become nearly invisible. The alien fleet, still in orbit around Earth, was unaware of his departure, but he knew it wouldn't be long before they realized he was gone. The chase began almost immediately. The first wave of pursuers appeared on the radar, fast-moving fighters, sleek and deadly, all determined to stop him from escaping. Zorath gritted his teeth and pushed his ship to its limits. He could feel the ship's systems straining under the pressure, but he knew he had no choice. He had to outrun them. The first shots were fired, bright laser beams streaking across space as the alien fighters closed in. Zorath's hands danced across the controls, evading their shots with expert precision. The alien ships followed his every move, but Zorath's advanced cloaking device kept him one step ahead. The battle was far from over, though. The alien fighters were relentless, and they quickly adapted to his tactics. They split into smaller groups, attempting to flank him from all sides. Zorath's heart raced. He could feel the pressure mounting, but he kept his focus. He needed to make it to Earth. He needed to help the humans. Suddenly, a wave of enemy ships appeared from the shadows of the distant asteroid field. Zoreth's eyes widened. There were too many of them. He was surrounded. The pursuit had led them to a dangerous part of space, an asteroid field, a perfect place for the enemies to hide and attack. Zoreth's ship weaved in and out of the jagged rocks, its cloaking device flickering on and off as the alien ships fired from behind. The flashes of laser beams lit up the dark expanse of space, creating a chaotic dance of light and shadows. The sound of enemy ships closing in was deafening, and Zoreth's grip on the controls tightened. Then, just as the tension reached its peak, the warning alarms blared once more. A massive ship, far larger than the fighters, appeared from the darkness, a dreadnought-class warship, bristling with weaponry. It was the flagship of the fleet. Zoreth knew it was only a matter of time before the warship joined the fray and crushed him. But even in the face of certain death, Zoreth's resolve hardened. He had made his choice. His old life was behind him. If he had to fight his way to Earth, he would. His ship's weapons came to life, and he launched a barrage of powerful energy blasts at the alien fighters closing in on him. The explosions lit up the void as one enemy ship after another was destroyed. Zoreth's heart pounded in his chest, but his focus never wavered. He wasn't just running anymore. He was fighting back. A sharp jolt rocked his ship as the flagship fired a powerful energy beam. Zoreth's ship shuddered, but the cloaking device held. He knew it wouldn't last much longer. The flagship's weapons were far stronger than anything he had ever encountered. But just as all hope seemed lost, Zoreth saw a glimmer of hope. Through the chaos, he noticed a small opening in the formation, a gap in the enemy fleet where his ship could slip through. It was a chance, but it was his only chance. With a final burst of speed, Zoreth piloted his ship through the gap, narrowly avoiding the oncoming fire. He could hear the thrum of the ship's engines as it shot forward, closer and closer to Earth. The enemy was still hot on his heels, but Zoreth was determined. He could see Earth's atmosphere now, the blue planet below beckoning him. He wasn't done yet. His heart raced, and every part of his body was focused on the task ahead. He was almost there. The final push to Earth felt like an eternity. Zoreth's hands were shaking, but his mind was sharp. As the enemy ships continued to pursue, Zoreth made his final move. His ship dove into Earth's atmosphere, and the heat of re-entry flared around him. The alien fleet, unable to follow him so close to the planet's surface, hesitated. Zoreth's heart skipped a beat as he broke through the clouds, Earth's landmass stretching out before him. He had done it. He had escaped, but the fight was far from over. He was no longer part of the Xerians, no longer an agent of destruction. He had chosen a new path, one that would lead him to the humans. As he set course for Earth's surface, Zoreth's resolve was stronger than ever. He had made his choice. The war was just beginning. Zoreth's ship descended through the thick clouds of Earth's atmosphere, the bright blue planet stretching out below him like an unknown paradise. His heart pounded in his chest, adrenaline coursing through his veins. The last several hours had felt like a blur, non-stop combat, the overwhelming sense of escape, the fear of being caught by his own people. Now he was here. He had made it to Earth. But his journey was far from over. Zoreth knew that Earth's inhabitants would not welcome him with open arms. He was an alien, a soldier of the empire that had ravaged their planet, and despite his defecting from his own kind, the humans would have every reason to distrust him. He couldn't afford to let his guard down. As his ship broke through the final layers of atmosphere, the ground beneath him quickly grew larger. Zoreth's ship touched down in a remote military base. The instant it landed, dozens of armed human soldiers surrounded him, their weapons raised, eyes suspicious and wary. Zoreth stepped out of his ship slowly, hands raised in a gesture of peace. His cloaking device deactivated, and his alien features were immediately visible. His tall, muscular frame, his alien uniform adorned with strange symbols, and his unsettlingly smooth green skin. He wasn't human, and there was no mistaking that. From the crowd of soldiers emerged Captain James Bonner. The leader of the human forces, Bonner's reputation as a fearless and skilled commander preceded him. His sharp blue eyes fixed on Zorath with distrust, his face hard and unyielding. "What is this?" Bonner's voice was calm but firm, each word cutting through the air like a blade. "Another one of them. Another enemy pretending to be an ally." Zorath stood tall, holding his ground under Bonner's intense gaze. His voice was steady, despite the storm of emotions swirling within him. "I'm not your enemy, Captain. I was once one of them, but I've defected. I came here to help." Bonner's eyes narrowed. "Help? After everything your people have done, how can we trust you?" Zorath's heart sank. He knew this would be no easy task, but he also knew he had no choice. If he couldn't prove himself, if he couldn't convince the humans that he was on their side, he would have no place here. The alien invaders were coming, and without their help, Earth would fall. "I understand your skepticism," Zorath said, his voice steady. "But I can show you that I mean what I say. I know everything about the alien empire's tactics, their weaknesses, their technology. I can help you fight back." Bonner considered this for a moment. His face remained hard, unreadable, but Zorath could see the slightest flicker of doubt in his eyes. He wasn't convinced, but he was curious. "Prove it," Bonner said, motioning for one of his officers to approach. "You've got 10 minutes to convince me. If what you say is true, then maybe we'll give you a chance. But if you're lying, you're going to regret it." Zorath nodded, relief flooding his chest. It wasn't much, but it was a start. "Thank you," he said, though the words felt foreign on his tongue. He had never been one to ask for help before. He stepped forward, leading Bonner and his team into the military facility. Zorath quickly accessed the humans' communication network, using his advanced alien tech to override their systems and pull up detailed information on the alien invaders. He showed them the alien fleet's trajectory, their plans to strike at the heart of human resistance. His finger traced over the holographic maps, highlighting key strategic points where the alien forces would be most vulnerable. "Your fleet is outnumbered, Captain. They'll strike here, here, and here," Zorath explained, pointing at several key locations. "They'll use heavy bombardment to weaken your defenses before sending in ground troops to finish the job. But there's a way to fight back. I can help you create cloaking devices, similar to the ones my people use. You'll be able to outmaneuver them, and with the right tactics, you can turn the tide." Bonner watched closely, his mind working quickly as he processed Zorath's words. He didn't say anything at first, but Zorath could see the wheels turning behind his eyes. The captain was a strategist, and he knew that if Zorath was telling the truth, this could change everything. After a long silence, Bonner spoke, his voice calm but with a hint of cautious optimism. "All right, you've got our attention, but we'll be keeping a very close eye on you. If you betray us..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. The warning was clear. Zorath nodded solemnly. "I understand." With Bonner's reluctant approval, Zorath was allowed to join the human forces in their preparations. The base buzzed with activity as human soldiers and engineers worked tirelessly to build new weapons, defenses, and tactics in preparation for the incoming alien strike. Zorath became an integral part of their operations, his knowledge of the alien tech proving invaluable. The first step was to create cloaking devices, advanced technology that would allow human ships and soldiers to move undetected by the alien forces. Zorath worked alongside the engineers, showing them how to reverse engineer the alien tech and adapt it for human use. The humans were quick to learn, and within days, they had perfected the technology. The first successful test of the cloaking device was nothing short of miraculous. The human ship, now invisible to the alien radar, was able to slip past the enemy's defenses undetected. It was a game changer, a glimpse of hope in what had seemed like an impossible situation. But cloaking wasn't enough. Zoreth knew the alien invaders would not be fooled for long. The humans needed a strike team, an elite unit that could carry out covert missions behind enemy lines, infiltrating their strongholds and causing chaos. The team would have to be a blend of human soldiers and alien technology. Zoreth was able to help the humans integrate alien weapons and armor into their own forces, giving them an edge they had never had before. The first mission was planned with meticulous care. The target, a key alien communication hub that would cripple their ability to coordinate the invasion. The human soldiers, now equipped with alien tech, would infiltrate the compound using their newly acquired cloaking devices, bypassing security and disabling the hub before the aliens could react. As the mission neared, Zoreth could feel the tension in the air. He had seen humans fight before, brave, resilient warriors who refused to back down in the face of overwhelming odds. But this was different. Now, Zoreth was one of them. His decision to defect, to stand by humanity's side, was no longer just a matter of survival. It was a matter of principle, of fighting for something greater than himself. The mission was risky, but the human soldiers had no choice. The alien invaders would stop at nothing to destroy them. Zoreth would lead the charge, guiding the soldiers through the heart of enemy territory. The future of Earth, and of the human race, rested on their success. As the team prepared for their dangerous mission, Zoreth stood alongside Captain Bonner, looking out over the battlefield that awaited them. Bonner gave him a firm nod, his face set in determination. "Let's show them what humans can do," he said, his voice full of conviction. Zoreth nodded in agreement. This was it. The fight for Earth had begun, and he was going to make sure humanity had the chance to win. The alien empire had underestimated them. But now it was time to prove that humans would never back down. Together, with Zoreth's knowledge and the bravery of the human soldiers, they had a fighting chance. The journey ahead would be perilous, but Zoreth was ready. For the first time in his life, he truly believed in the cause he was fighting for. The tension was unbearable. For weeks, Zoreth had worked alongside humanity's forces, earning their trust, sharing everything he knew about the alien empire. He had hoped that by helping them, he could make up for the destruction his people had caused. The humans were tough, resourceful, and resilient. They had taken to alien technology with surprising speed, making it clear that they would not be easily defeated. Zoreth had grown close to them, particularly Captain Bonner, whose courage and unwavering belief in humanity had earned his respect. It was during these weeks that Zoreth began to truly feel like part of something bigger, something worth fighting for. But as the days went on, something changed. The skies darkened, and the warnings came in rapid succession. The alien fleet, once believed to be a distant threat, had arrived in full force. Zoreth's heart sank as the news spread like wildfire across the human base. The empire that he had once called his own was coming to Earth, and this time, there would be no mercy. No more calculations, no more diplomacy. The battle would be brutal. Zoreth had seen their power before, seen the destructive force of the alien ships, the deadly precision of their weapons. But he had also seen how the humans fought, how they never gave up, even when the odds were stacked against them. He had watched them push back the alien invaders once before, using their own ingenuity and the stolen technology Zoreth had helped them acquire. Now he had to lead them into battle against his own kind. The day the attack began, the sky was filled with the roar of warships and drones. The earth trembled under the weight of the incoming assault. Zoreth's heart raced as he stood among the human forces, staring up at the massive alien fleet descending from the heavens. His hand clenched into a fist, the grip of his weapon cold and unforgiving. The humans had prepared for this moment, but nothing could have fully prepared them for the sheer power and relentlessness of the alien attack. Zoreth had no choice but to fight. He had made his decision long ago. He would never go back to the empire that had raised him, never return to the cold, emotionless existence that had once seemed so normal to him. Now there was only one goal: to protect Earth, to avenge all the lives that had been lost, and to honor the comrades he had grown to care for. The battle was fierce, unlike anything Zorath had ever experienced. Alien warships unleashed devastating laser blasts, while human drones and fighter jets swarmed the skies, dodging incoming fire and retaliating with deadly precision. Zorath was at the forefront of the attack, leading the charge with a sense of purpose that burned through him. His advanced alien weaponry made him an unstoppable force on the battlefield. Yet, no matter how hard he fought, the alien invaders were relentless, their technology far superior. On the ground, human soldiers and alien tech clashed in close-quarters combat. Zorath could hear the sound of gunfire and the screams of dying soldiers. The air was thick with smoke and the scent of burning metal. His instincts kicked in, his every move calculated, as he used his cloaking device to disappear into the chaos, picking off enemy soldiers and sabotaging their machines. But then something happened that shook him to his core. Captain Bonner, the man who had fought by his side, who had shown him what it meant to fight for something greater than himself, was struck down in the midst of the battle. It happened in a split second. A lucky shot from an alien sniper, hidden behind the wreckage of a destroyed building. Zorath had been moments away from reaching him when he saw Bonner fall, his body hitting the ground with a sickening thud. "No!" Zorath screamed, his heart pounding in his chest. He rushed to Bonner's side, but the captain's eyes were already glazed over, his life slipping away. Zorath's hands trembled as he tried to help, but there was nothing he could do. Bonner's last words were a whisper barely audible over the roar of battle. "Finish it, Zorath. Take them down. For all of us." Those words cut through Zorath like a blade. Bonner had sacrificed himself to save him, to ensure that Zorath could continue the fight. He had given his life so that Zorath could stand tall and lead humanity to victory. It was a sacrifice that would not go unpunished. The alien empire had taken everything from him, his home, his family, his future, and now they had taken the life of someone who had believed in him. Zorath stood there for a moment, overwhelmed with grief. His world seemed to crumble around him. Bonner had been the one person who had truly accepted him, who had given him a chance. And now he was gone. In his place, a burning rage welled up inside Zorath, a fury that could no longer be contained. He would not let Bonner's death be in vain. He would make the alien empire pay for what they had done. With a roar that echoed through the battlefield, Zorath surged forward, his heart burning with vengeance. His every move was driven by rage, by the desire to see the alien empire fall. The humans around him fought with the same intensity, their faces twisted with determination and grief. They had lost so many of their own, but they would not stop. They would not yield. Zorath could feel their strength, their courage, and he knew that he had made the right choice in standing with them. The battle raged on, but Zorath fought with everything he had. His weapon fired in rapid succession, disintegrating enemy soldiers and war machines in his path. His cloaking device became a blur of movement, making him a shadow on the battlefield as he tore through the alien forces. He had no mercy left in him, not after what they had done. And then, amid the chaos, Zorath saw the alien flagship hovering above the battlefield, a towering behemoth brimming with weapons of mass destruction. He knew what he had to do. The humans needed a victory, a decisive blow that would cripple the alien invasion and send a message that Earth would not fall. With a final surge of strength, Zorath took to the skies in a stolen alien fighter, weaving through enemy fire as he made his way toward the flagship. His mind was clear, his heart focused on one goal: to destroy the alien empire that had torn his world apart. The flagship loomed ahead, its massive cannons ready to unleash hell. Zorath's hand gripped the controls, his mind sharp as he calculated the best way to breach its defenses. With a final, deafening explosion, the flagship's core was destroyed. The alien fleet scattered in disarray, the human forces closing in for the kill. Zorath's heart still pounded in his chest as he flew back toward the human base. The battle was not over. But the tide had turned. The alien empire had been dealt a serious blow. And though the cost had been high, Zorath knew in his heart that the fight for Earth was far from finished. But one thing was clear: he had made the ultimate sacrifice, just as Bonner had. The alien empire would fall, and humanity would rise. Zorath's loyalty to the human race had been forged in fire, and it was stronger than ever before. There would be no turning back. The final battle had arrived. The alien fleet, once an overwhelming force, now loomed above Earth in all its terrifying might. Zorath stood among the human forces, his heart pounding in his chest. The weight of the responsibility was heavier than ever, but he was no longer the cold, calculating soldier of the alien empire. He was a part of something much bigger now, a movement driven by the unwavering will to protect Earth and its people. This was his final chance for redemption. Zorath had led countless battles alongside the humans, earning their trust, but nothing could prepare him for the assault on the alien flagship. The ship was an enormous fortress of advanced technology, its weapons capable of wiping out entire cities in seconds. Zorath knew that this would be the most dangerous mission yet, but he also knew that failure was not an option. The human forces had been preparing for this moment for weeks. They had developed a detailed plan to infiltrate the flagship, and Zorath's knowledge of alien technology would be the key to their success. The attack was coordinated with surgical precision, combining the best of human ingenuity and alien tech. Orbital bombardments rained down from above, striking the alien fleet and crippling its defensive structures one by one. The sky was filled with the brilliance of explosions, the deadly flashes of lasers, and the screams of war. Zorath was in the thick of it, his cloaking device blending him with the chaos as he fought with a fury he had never known. His advanced alien weapons were a blur of motion as he tore through the enemy lines, each strike sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The humans fought with equal intensity, their determination matched only by the devastation they wrought. Zorath could feel the power of their resolve. These were not just soldiers fighting for their lives. They were fighting for their world, for everything they had ever known. As the battle raged on, Zorath's mind was focused entirely on the mission. They needed to reach the core of the alien flagship, where the command center was located. It was the heart of the enemy's operations, and if they could destroy it, the alien fleet would be crippled. Zorath and his team, a mix of humans and advanced alien technology, pushed forward through the wreckage of the battlefield. They moved swiftly, using every advantage they had: cloaking devices, EMP grenades, and high-tech weapons that Zorath had shared with the humans. But the alien forces were relentless. They fought back with everything they had, their AI-driven commanders calculating every move. The battle was a blur of fire and smoke, of soldiers charging forward, of ships falling from the sky. Zorath could hear the voices of his human allies over the comms, their voices filled with both fear and determination. But there was something more, something that pushed them forward, something that made them refuse to give up. It was their spirit. The closer Zorath got to the core, the more intense the battle became. The alien commanders, realizing the threat, launched their last-ditch efforts to stop them. Zorath could see the panic in their movements, the desperation of an empire that had underestimated humanity. For all their advanced technology, for all their superior firepower, the aliens had never understood one thing: the strength of the human heart. As they approached the flagship's core, Zorath knew what had to be done. The countdown had already begun. If they didn't disable the core in time, the flagship would self-destruct, taking the entire Earth down with it. Zorath had already made his decision. He had led them this far, and now he would make the ultimate sacrifice to ensure their victory. With a glance at his human allies, Zorath activated his final plan. He had designed a self-destruct mechanism that would destabilize the alien core, but it would also destroy him in the process. It was a last-ditch effort, a gamble that only someone who had seen both the cruelty of the alien empire and the hope of humanity could make. The humans pleaded with him to reconsider, But Zoreth knew that there was no other choice. He had been given a second chance at life, a chance to fight for something greater than himself, and now he would give everything for that cause. With one final roar, Zoreth rushed forward, his body moving with a speed and precision that only the alien tech coursing through him could provide. He broke through the final barrier, crashing into the core of the alien flagship. The explosion that followed was cataclysmic, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. The alien fleet trembled as its heart was ripped apart. In that moment, Zoreth felt a strange peace. His life had come full circle. He had begun as an emotionless soldier, an instrument of destruction, but now he was something more. He was part of something that transcended mere technology, something that could not be destroyed by any weapon, no matter how powerful. He had fought alongside humans, the very people his empire had sought to wipe out, and in doing so, he had found redemption. The explosion consumed everything. For a moment, there was only darkness. When Zoreth regained consciousness, he found himself back on Earth. The alien flagship was gone, its threat eliminated. The human forces had succeeded, thanks in part to his sacrifice. The victory was theirs, but Zoreth knew that it had come at a great cost. His body was battered and burned, but he was alive. More than that, he was free. The human leaders, including Captain Bonner's remaining comrades, welcomed Zoreth back with open arms. They honored him as a hero, just as he had honored them. But Zoreth knew that the real victory was not in the destruction of the alien fleet or the defeat of the Empire. The true victory lay in the way humanity had come together in the face of overwhelming odds. They had fought not for power or glory, but for each other. Zoreth looked out over the Earth, watching as the sun began to rise over the horizon. The battle had been won, but the war for humanity's future was far from over. The alien empire may have been defeated, but there would always be threats, always new challenges to face. But Zoreth had come to understand that humanity's greatest strength was not in their technology or their military power. It was in their heart, in their ability to fight not just for survival, but for something greater, something worth dying for. As the sun rose, Zoreth made a promise to himself. He would continue to protect this world, the world that had given him a second chance. Earth was now his home, and its future was in the hands of the people he had once seen as his enemies. But now, they were his family. Together, they would face whatever came next, united by their courage, their spirit, and their unbreakable bond. The story of Zoreth, the alien soldier turned hero, was just beginning. But for the first time, he was no longer fighting alone. He was fighting for Earth, for humanity, and for the future they would build together.